It's pretty simple in my case. It's not IQ. I'm sure you'll all be glad to hear that. But everybody in this room has more IQ than they need to do my job. Well, I thought I ought to start this off by announcing that Bill and I have a small bet as to who would get the most applause. And I suggested that I bet my house against his, but we settled on a small sum, but evidently it isn't so small to Bill because just before we came out, he gave me this Nebraska Cornhuskers shirt to wear, and he puts on this purple shirt. We're going to answer your questions. Whatever you want to talk about is fine, and we don't want any softballs. And I thought by wearing this Cornhusker shirt that I could guarantee hardballs right in my head. When we went to the game last year, about halfway through the first quarter, Bill said, "What's that big N stand for on those guys of yours?" I said, "Bill," I said, "what the hell?" I said, "It's knowledge." We all agree on that in Nebraska. Well, they've asked us to start out talking with the two of us on one question, but then it's going to be your questions, and we're going to just have you line up behind the microphones, and we'll go back and forth. They did ask that we might start off with talking about sort of what got us here, and it's pretty simple in my case. It's not IQ. I'm sure you'll all be glad to hear that. But everybody in this room has more IQ than they need to do my job. The big thing is rationality. And in other words, I always look at IQ and talent as sort of representing the horsepower of the motor, but then in terms of the output, the efficiency with which the motor works, that depends on rationality, because a lot of people start out with 400 horsepower motors and get 100 horsepower of output, and it's way better to have a 200 horsepower motor and get it all into output. And so why do smart people do things that interfere with really getting the output they're entitled to? And it gets into habits, into character, into temperament, and it really gets into behaving in a rational manner. It's not getting in your own way. As I say, everybody here has the ability absolutely to do anything I do and much beyond. And some of you will, and some of you won't. But it will. The ones that won't, it will be because you get in your own way. It won't because the world doesn't allow you to. It will be because you don't allow yourself to. So I have one little suggestion for you. Pick out the person in the class that you admire the most, and then write down why you admire them. Put down a list of qualities. You're not to name yourself in this, incidentally. And then put down the one that, frankly, you could stand the least in the whole group, and put down the qualities that turn you off in that person. Then look at that list, and you won't find it's a bunch of things like throwing a football 70 yards or anything of the sort. The qualities of the first one that you admire are qualities that you, with a little practice, can make your own, and which, if practiced, will become habit forming. The chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken. I mean, my age, I can't change any of my habits. I mean, I'm stuck. But at your age, you will have the habits 20 years from now that you decide to put into practice today. So I just suggest that you look at the habits you admire in others, or the behavior you admire in others, and make those your own habits, and you look at what you really find somewhat reprehensible in others, and just decide, those are things you're not going to do. Ben Franklin did that a few hundred years ago, and it still works today. And if you do that, you'll find that you convert all your horsepower into output. So